Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. You're watching The Big Story. And as promised before we went on break, I now want to engage the CEO of the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, ADAK, Jafta Rugut, just to talk about the efforts that agency has been putting since its formation in 2016. And a very good evening to you, Mr. Rugut. Thank you for joining us. Let's just start with that question, and it's one that has been posed even with the panelists that I have with me in studio. Since the formation of ADAK in 2016, what kind of sensitization projects have you been engaging in, and are you able to measure how effective this has been?
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to confirm that since the formation of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya in 2016, the agency has been involved in a lot of education activities, a lot of sensitization in all areas of this country. Targeting mainly the athletes to begin with, but also now going into institutions so that we are able to project the image and the message about doping or anti-doping in general to the public. So far, we have had outreach programs in all major counties, particularly where we have active competitions going on. And we also have appearances in all major events, all the events organized by the federations. And not only in athletics, because we began initially because the main interest was in athletics. But now I want to confirm that we also go to other federations. We have been engaged with the rugby union. We have engaged with the football Premier Leagues. We have engaged with volleyball. We have engaged also with hockey. All federations, and we want to confirm that at ADAK we are pleased that even the federations themselves come to us, inviting us to their events, so that we are able to talk to their members and pass the message against doping in sports.
Right, and sir, it would appear that since the formation of ADAK, we've actually had a surge of such cases of doping among athletes in Kenya.
That could be as a result of now that we have a process in place, that we have an agency now which is able to, previously maybe this information was not coming out clearly because there was no agency which was taking action on it and also which was reporting. But now that ADAK was formed 2 years ago, slightly below, less than 2 years ago, we have taken the initiative to reach out to do education sensitization, as I've said, but also to do tests, which as a result of that, we have had positive tests coming back from the laboratory to us. And in the process, we have also managed the results of those tests by taking them to the sports tribunal, prosecuting them, and getting the sanctions required as per the WADA code.
Right. And is ADAK informed about the 53 Kenyan athletes who are said to be implicated and under investigations by the latest report by the IAAF?
Yes, we are aware about these ongoing, I wouldn't call them investigations as such, but I would say that these are interests which have been taken on specific athletes. And this goes without question. Whenever we have tests taken to samples taken to the laboratories for tests, there are certain investigations which are undertaken. And international federations like IAAF, for example, will take interest in certain of their members, that is, certain athletes, for several reasons. One, if they break a record, or if their performance goes beyond what is expected. If, for example, in a marathon, somebody improves from 2 hours 30 minutes to 2 hours 15 minutes without any reasonable explanation, then the International Federation will take interest in the samples taken from that particular athlete to prove whether that performance was normal or whether that performance was aided by something like a performance-enhancing drug. So once the samples go to the laboratory, there are several tests which it can be subjected to. We have what we call the GHRF test, the growth hormone rhesus factor, which is traced in the sample. We have the ESA, which normally is subjected, when a sample is subjected to that, it shows whether EPO, erythropoietin, was used. We have the APP, the Athlete Biological Passport, which is basically a methodological, it's about blood. We have the GH factor, which tests steroids, again in blood. All these are various factors. These are various tests which can be, the test can be, the sample can be subjected to those tests, depending on the interest, which now the International Federation or us as an anti-doping organization would take specific interest in that athlete. And even when we are not sure about specific results coming out of the laboratory, we can even request, or the laboratory itself on its own can request for additional tests. If the results are suspicious, some other tests like what we call the IRMS, to confirm whether maybe there was a substance which was present in the sample, but then the athlete might have used a masking substance to mask, those results. So all this now could be interpreted as investigations ongoing. But to us, we look at it as a process just to confirm whether really, even if the sample has not, turned positive, is that enough, or can we subject it to another test to ensure that it is clean? So we are aware of that because we have a platform in which we monitor what comes out of the laboratory, the ADAM system, which now as ADAC we have an access to it. The ADAMS is the anti-doping management system, which is an online platform. Any sample which is taken to the laboratory must be posted in that platform. And us, as an anti-doping agency, have access to that, and we are able to read what goes on there.
Right. And finally, and very briefly, Mr. Rugut, we've had some cases where some athletes have implicated their own coaches, saying that they're probably working with external forces, into doping them. Do you conduct your own independent investigations into such cases?
Yes, we do. One of the things that we do as an agency is to try and find out whether, any positive result that comes from the laboratory, how did it enter into the person, into the body? Was it through being assisted by somebody else, being assisted by an athlete's, support personnel, for example, the doctors, the clinical officers, the people who attend to these athletes? Was it through a trainer? Was it through anybody else, somebody external to the athlete himself? And we have several of these kind of allegations coming on. And whenever we get it, we need to go deep down and find out whether it's true. And if possible, if the athlete can himself or herself assist to give information as to whether this is true, then we will now take that to another level. Because there are sanctions also. Apart from the sanctions on the athlete, there are also sanctions which are put on the athlete support personnel, and which can also be extended to be criminal, because that is how our act, that is how the Anti-Doping Act 2016 stipulates that for people who abet and who assist and who aid and who even traffic, then there are criminal sanctions that can be leveled against them.
Right. Many thanks, sir. Thank you for your time. Jafta Rugut there is the CEO of the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. And I want to just come back to studio briefly to speak with my guests. And Barnabas, I want to come to you to talk as Athletics Kenya. What is it that, you do as an institution for those athletes that have tested positive for these performance-enhancing drugs? Is just banning them a solution, or do you have any sort of correctional, procedures or activities that you do?
Athletics Kenya's role, as per the Athletics Kenya rules, as per the IAAF rules, requires that when an athlete is positive and has already been banned, the rules that follows is that there's nothing much the federation can do other than continue educating and sensitizing the others. The protocol for panning, testing, and of course educating the athletes is set up in the protocols as stated by ADAC and other bodies that is set up to work on these problems we are facing. The federation has done quite a lot. In the past, before ADAC was set up, they had a body for a medical commission that was dealing with those situations where the Kenyan athletes has been maybe found to adopt. But at the moment, the mandate has already been transferred to ADAC and also Athlete Integrity Unit, which is a function of IAAF. So basically, the federation's functions is to continue sensitizing the athletes and also to ensure that all the information necessary to educate them as far as doping is concerned is actually given to the athletes. As I said before, the federation has done quite a lot in visiting almost all the areas that have been found to have had high density of doping cases, and also the areas that maybe prevalence of doping is found. So I think my understanding, and of course the role that the federation has to do, they have actually done their mandate, and I think they will continue doing that in the future.
Okay, and very briefly, because we're coming to that time where we need to end the show, Julius, do we have any doping controls at the training camps? And if not, how useful do you think it would be to have them, even before, ADAC and other agencies come in?
Yeah, Sharon, to be true with everyone, I must state that so far, what my friend Barnaba is saying, who is chairman of youth, I think the federation is to do more than what they have done. Mm-hmm. They have not done what we expected when we put AK at the siege back in 2015. Mm-hmm. Because what we expected is to see a little change. Not a little change, a little change. Mm-hmm. But you see now, the fact remains is that the truth must be told, that even when ADAC was formed in 2016, we have not, or we never got even a single camp whereby the athletes was to be sensitized immediately after the formation of ADAC. But you see, what you are doing is that in Kenya, and you can support me, Sharon, mm-hmm. we normally do things when it's too late. Mm-hmm. Like when you want to put a fire on a house, kindly don't wait until it go down to ashes, then you bring water to put it off. Mm-hmm. I think that is the character that Kenyans have today. Because we want to wait things to happen, then we'll be able to blame each other, run up and down. Okay. But the fact is, we have not received, as Kenyan athletes, as Kenyan citizens, we have not reached a point that we can say, really, what was formed in 2016 has brought a change. But we are still looking forward to see that.
Okay, Julius, let me cut you short so that I can have a very brief, in half a second. I know you can do this as a journalist, Sadiq. Way forward.
Well, you're very generous in half a second. I'll try and meet your time.
Half a minute is what I meant.
Fair enough, fair enough. I would say about three things in very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. I would use the famous cliche. They say security starts with you. I'll tell Kenyan athletes, anti-doping control starts with you. Knowledge of it starts with you. Take charge and take care of your own welfare as an athlete, because ultimately you are the one responsible for it. Right. Two, we need to see real change in athletics Kenya. There cannot be business as usual in the federation. A single federation that handles over 4,000, 5,000 Kenyan athletes. The leaders must wake up and smell this coffee that is now boiling out of control. Right. And thirdly, Kenya, again, may find itself in a very awkward situation if we do not have what I would call an national athlete summit to be able to discuss this thing, which will bring stakeholders together. And the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya needs more funding to be able to move around and be able to undertake its core mandate. Otherwise, I'll tell you, Sharon, you call us back here again 2 years from now, 3 years from now, to discuss the same thing. If changes are not made in all the bodies that either handle athletes or are in charge of what it is as a country, we must be able to put in place to ensure that we do not run afoul with anti-doping rules violation again.
fantastic. And I hope when you come back 2 years, it will be better news this time, Sadiq. And many thanks, gentlemen, for your great insights on this topic. Of course, we could go on and on, but I think we've really managed to highlight the key issues that need to be canvassed further as regards doping in the country. Sadiq Shaban is a veteran sports journalist in the country, Barnabas Korir from Athletics Kenya, and Julius Ndegwa, who's a former athlete. Many thanks, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. And that is where we wind up today's edition of The Big Story. Thank you. I have a lot of feedback and comments coming in from you on Twitter and other social media pages. I cannot read them right now, but thank you. Let's keep having that conversation online, and have a good night. I'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Sharon Momani.